The Soviets are some of the strongest people in history. For years, I thought it was just genetic or because they simply trained harder than everyone else. Turns out, I was completely wrong. After digging into how they trained, recovered, and lived, I finally understood why the Soviets are so strong and how we can be too. Most people think strength is built by specific exercises, which is not wrong, but it's more important how often you do these and with which method, etc. Back then, the Soviets rolled out a program called GTO. It stands for Ready for Labor and Defense. The GTO program was especially designed to build a stronger, healthier, and more militarily ready population for the Soviet state. This sounds normal at first because the Navy SEALs and the Army in general all have such programs with different names, right? But it wasn't just for soldiers, it was for everyone, and I literally mean everyone. So, to understand more about it, we need to know what was included in this specific protocol. This program included running, jumping, pull-ups, climbing, swimming, just real, useful strength exercises. The goal was simple: build a body that doesn't break down, a body that can handle almost any physical challenge without getting hurt. And here's where things get really interesting. Every morning, factories and schools across the entire country did the exact same workout at the exact same time, broadcast live over national radio. It was called Zaryadka. The National Radio Day began at 6 a.m., or some sources say 7:15 a.m., with the anthem, followed by 5 minutes of morning exercises. Then, more guided exercise broadcasts came later in the day, around 11 a.m., and then again at 3 p.m. So in the morning, they might do something like this: stand up, arms swinging loose, march in place for a count of 1, 2, 1, 2. Then some side bends, some knee raises, maybe a set of squats with your hands on your hips. Then, during the next broadcast, more of the same but with a gymnastic stick or a pair of lightweight objects. And then, torso twists, arm circles, and some deep breathing drills to finish. And by the afternoon broadcast, it was usually the same style again: simple, steady, no equipment needed. Now, what does that mean for you? To be fair, it's less about the exercises and more about the discipline behind them. They were doing the same workouts at the same time every single day. But that's only one of the biggest secrets behind their strength. Even today, UFC fighters from that part of the world are known for that same discipline, and it shows once they step into the cage. A lot of people think they are successful because of wrestling, but that's not entirely true. They win the fights because of the discipline they show in the training before the fight.
Dagestan, that's an interesting element too. Those Russian wrestlers.
I don't think just because of their wrestling. I think it's because of their discipline.
But discipline alone doesn't make you stronger. Another lesson is don't rely on one long workout. Instead, do several short ones spread throughout the day, through the morning and afternoon. And look, don't let work become the excuse for skipping them. So, in the morning you can do something like 10 to 15 push-ups. Then, during the next break or free time, maybe 15 to 20 bodyweight squats or jump squats along with 8 to 10 pull-ups. And by 3 p.m. you can finish with 15 to 20 sit-ups or crunches. Now obviously the time doesn't matter here, it's just about being active through the entire day. So you're probably wondering, how did daily low-effort movement like this actually build real strength instead of just wearing people out? Well, it comes down to your nervous system, not just your muscles. And even to build larger muscles, the nervous system is very important.
If your goal is to build larger muscles, there's a way to use your nervous system to trigger hypertrophy, to increase the size of those muscles.
Think of it like turning up the volume on a speaker you already own. You're not buying new speakers, you're just getting a lot more out of the same ones. Okay, maybe not the greatest example, but you get the idea. That's what consistent daily practice does to your body. Your brain gets better at switching on more muscle fibers at once, faster and more in sync. Same muscles, way more power. Anyway, that wasn't the only thing that made them so strong. Now let's talk about the tool that became a staple of Soviet training, the kettlebell. And one of their favorite exercises was the kettlebell snatch. You swing the kettlebell from between your legs and punch it straight overhead in one smooth motion. And look, you don't even need an actual kettlebell to understand the idea. This kind of training builds strength, power, coordination, and conditioning all at once.
One of the things that I love about kettlebells is that it promotes functional strength. It promotes the entire body moving as a unit.
And research on kettlebell training suggests it can improve aerobic power, muscular strength, grip strength, and overall fitness when programmed properly. And that's exactly what the Soviets were doing. But honestly, this was just the warm-up. The real reason strength seemed to stick with them for life came down to something much simpler. Because here's the thing, it wasn't how hard they trained, it was how often they trained. Forget the modern idea of 3 to 5 heavy gym sessions a week. And it's not only because you get exhausted, it's also because sometimes you overtrain. Your muscles start to break down, and you might even have to get treatment after that. And Soviets were very cautious about that.
It's when you overtrain and your muscles start breaking down and it pollutes your kidneys. People die from it.
The Soviets trained almost every single day, but with easy, low-effort sessions. And in 1956, the government actually made it official. Even factory and office workers had to run short exercise breaks right in the middle of the shift. Just walking, stretching, and light squats, all without interrupting the work. And these sessions were designed so even older workers could join in without getting completely wiped out. By the early 1970s, big factories even had a full-time staff member whose entire job was running these workouts. I wish that would be my job, but anyways, modern research backs this up too. Studies on strength training show that training more often builds more strength, even when the session is easy. It's kind of like brushing your teeth. Doing a little every day beats going all out once in a while. So here's what to do. Pick 3 short breaks during your day and do a few exercises each time. I mean, that's really how simple it is. And this daily habit is also a big reason they rarely get injured, because recovering from a workout that basically never stops takes a very different kind of system. However, training this often only works if your body can actually keep up. So how did they recover enough to do this every single day without falling apart? Well, the answer was the banya. Of course, not only the banya, but it was a big reason for it. It's a Russian steam bathhouse, and honestly, it wasn't some luxury either. It was a weekly habit for regular working people, rich and poor. The routine was simple. Sit in extreme heat, then jump into freezing cold water, and repeat. Now, you've probably heard the popular explanation for why this works. People say the heat and cold flush the lactic acid out of your sore muscles. Sounds convincing, except there's one small problem. Lactic acid actually clears out of your muscles within about an hour after exercise. Your soreness doesn't even show up until a day or two later, so it can't be the lactic acid causing that soreness in the first place.
Is it the lactic acid that's causing the soreness after I work out, after like a day of working out? And the answer is no, it's not. The lactic acid is cleared out within 30 to 60 minutes after you work out.
So no, sitting in a hot wooden room isn't giving your muscles a car wash. I mean, if only recovery were that easy. What's actually happening is a lot simpler than the myth. The heat opens up your blood vessels, the cold slams them shut again. That back and forth helps push blood through your muscles, kind of like a pump moving water through a pipe. But look, you don't need an actual banya to get some of this benefit. Even ending a hot shower with 20 seconds of cold water follows the same idea. So now we know how they trained, how often they trained, and how they recovered. But none of that works without fuel. And honestly, what they actually ate wasn't some secret formula. In fact, it was almost the opposite of what you'd expect. Soviet food was scarce. Cheap, plain, and honestly the same stuff over and over again. But that's exactly why it worked. Bread was the backbone of almost every meal. In the 1930s, cities rationed it at around 800 grams per person per day. That's most of someone's daily energy coming from bread alone. Then there was buckwheat, usually cooked into a simple porridge called kasha. People ate it all the time. Now, buckwheat has a solid amount of protein for a grain, but it's not quite a complete protein on its own, so they paired it with milk or meat, and just like that, the problem was solved. Then you had tvorog, a dry, high-protein farmer's cheese, and kefir, a fermented milk drink. Both were everyday staples, packed with protein and gut-friendly bacteria, long before probiotic became the buzzword slapped on an overpriced yogurt cup. And meals followed a simple pattern too. Soup, a main dish, and a fruit drink. Every single day. Not exactly exciting, I mean, nobody was counting down to lunch, but it was consistent. And to be honest, that's the real secret I mentioned earlier in the video. Everyone ate the same simple staples, and it was enough. Now look, you don't need to import kefir or hunt down a Russian bakery to get the same benefit. The principle is exactly the same, and it's probably something your grandmother told you years ago. Eat real food, eat it consistently, and stop overthinking it. Here's what to do. Prioritize real whole foods. Get enough protein and don't skip meals. Honestly, that's most of it. So the Soviets didn't become strong because of one trick, one workout, one drink, or one secret exercise. Strength was just stitched into their entire day, every single day, without them ever having to think about it. They didn't get strong on purpose, they just never gave themselves the chance to get weak. And honestly, that's the part you can actually steal. You don't need a perfect plan. Just stay disciplined and consistent with your movement, your recovery, and your food. But if you want to get your strength to a completely different level, then I suggest clicking the subscribe button and the video on the screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.